Okay, we have a game. It's very, very nice that we actually have a game. So I'm gonna get this thing on streaming, and then we will get to actually discussing this. 'Cause I actually like playing these games. It does help me improve my Go because when I review it, I do realize to actually discussing this where I actually mess up, and I do actually mess up in a lot of areas that I really shouldn't. A lot of times when I do mess up, a lot of times when I do actually screw up, it is because I just overlook a lot of things, and it does actually help me a lot to actually fix some of these problems. And I do realize like where some of them, and I actually do realize like certain areas where I could actually be quite a bit better. So yeah, that's definitely something that I can actually be pretty weary about. Now, this is an interesting, I don't know what to do here. I think I'm going to pincer. Yeah, that, like where he played, that would actually be a decent play as well. That would actually be a pretty decent play as well. I think the correct move is actually to go down here, but I might actually just take this jump because I like it slightly better. Now I'm just going to go down here. I don't want really him to build up any more influence at this point. That would be bad for me. That's not a good move. Exchanging this move for this move, black loses out. There wasn't really much, like, I wasn't going to cut there anyways. And exchanging this move for this move means I get the corner, which is not good for him. So that's not a good move. He doesn't really get much for this. It might look like he got a little thicker, but he really didn't. And this move is worth a couple of points to me, so not a fan of. For me, I'm not a big fan of that particular move. I am not quite as familiar with the low approach as the high approach. There are other Josekis you can actually do there. I think like attaching over is actually decent, but it's a little low for my taste. You're basically playing the entire Joseki one line lower, which I think is fine overall, but you know. Kicking is fine. I do think in this case the knight's move and that are about the same, so it doesn't really matter. Invading the 3-3. Okay, that's fine. I don't know which way I want to go on this, actually. I could go with a double Hane. That stone is actually there. But yeah, I'll just go with the double Hane. I think I'm going to do this. That move is not specifically all that big. This gives me a comfortable two-step. I'm just going to go ignore that and play this. Want to separate It's really like moves like this where like better players pull ahead. I can just simply do this. Yeah, it's really moves like extra moves like this one where I can pull ahead because I basically get extra moves over here for a move that's fairly low value. And that is definitely killer in the beginning. So if you're wondering, like, like even in games where there's not that much fighting, like how at the end it generally looks like I'm like way ahead of them. It is because of things like that. This you generally crawl once, and then you move somewhere else. Since he actually gave me this move, it's not really threatening to my corner at all. So like now if I actually come up, it's actually kind of problematic for him when I come up. That move does not have that much value because he hasn't cleaned up this yet. I'm just going to start chipping away at his territory here. I'm going to go ahead and do that. That's not a good move. Sorry. I'm just going to ignore that. I have essentially well, you know what? I could take this stone, but I don't think it's actually worth all that much right now. Do I attach? No, I shouldn't attach there, I don't think. No, this is like not that much territory anyways. If I attach here, then there's not actually... attaching there is pointless right now. I could attach in here. I think that's also kind of pointless right now, though. I think coming up here is probably the biggest move. Either coming up here or making some kind of territory out of this, but I don't think there's that much in there. My mission for over here has already been accomplished. Eventually I will want to take this stone, but right now it doesn't really matter all that much. I'm just going to do that. I will gladly just take... oh, that's pretty bad. You definitely want to go over top. You do not want to connect that. You most definitely want to come out on top on there. I don't know if that's a good move or not. Either way, I don't suppose it really matters. Let's do this. Already pretty much gotten what I wanted out of this. I actually think this might be the best move. I can actually go either way on this, but I should actually solidify this somewhat. I'm going to try to make this territory first, but I should actually try to solidify these 3 stones, because he can still attack those 3 stones and get some value for those 3 stones. Do I answer that or not? I guess I'll just take those 2. It's those 2. I mean, like, it's fairly big to connect those two. I will say it is fairly big to connect those two. He's trying to get Moyo out here, but I don't know if that's really going to work. Trying to get Moyo out here. I mean, he's basically giving me all the territory on the bottom. I mean, I do see what he's trying to do here. It's just that I can just jump out and break the Moyo. That move's kind of pointless. Okay, poking around is perfectly fine. That's actually not too bad of a move right now. There is an obvious move here right now. He didn't take that. I'm going to go ahead and do this. He could have gotten those two stones, but it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to take some like liberties first. I'm actually going to just like take some big Sente moves first. Because if he does that, I might just roll back here. Because that's actually a lot of points. So he blocks. I'm actually going to jump out, and that basically negates any kind of like Moyo here. That's fine. I don't really need that stone. There are definitely bigger moves on the board right now. There's a bunch of Sentes, this being one of them. There are actually a lot of Sentes in here, and that definitely being one of them. Because if he Ataris this, I can just Atari it back. That's not a big deal. So at this point, like, I don't really know what the biggest moves are on the board right now. There's a couple of, like, shape moves. There's, like, this move here that's actually pretty big. Then I can just, like, go down here. I don't know if that... I don't think that would be considered, like, that great of a move. I can't let him Atari that one, so I'm going to come out. That's not very big. That's like 2 or 3 points. I'm going to go ahead and jump in the corner. This jump in the corner is much, much bigger. Jump in the corner is honestly a lot bigger than that move. I don't think I should do this, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. That's actually pretty small. I shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake. My bad. But now he sort of has to fix this because this group is kind of weak right now. If he doesn't... I mean, he doesn't really have to fix it, I guess, at this point. But it is kind of problematic if he doesn't. So you can see how I'm, like, reducing his points and what mistakes he's actually making and, like, calculating how many points certain things are. Just going to do this as well. There's not many points here, so this actually might not be that big. I'm just used to doing these things, but this is probably not all that big. Well, but if he does that, then I guess it's a couple of points there. I'm basically just doing like endgame moves. Guys, please hit the likes. That would really help me. I'm just basically doing like endgame moves right now because the center territory is very tenuous, and I'm not really sure if anyone can get much off of that. I should actually strengthen my center though, because that's the only part of my That's the only thing I have that's not that strong right now. I definitely should strengthen my center. I have an eye space down here, but it's not enough. But like with my head sticking out, it's very, very difficult for him to actually attack my stones. It's also not a very good move. There's very little value in this up here. There's no chance for territory here. So I guess I can jump here. I think he should have like pushed and then done this. This lets me get an extension way, way too easily. So he's like letting me break all his territory here. And this is also Sente for me. So that's very bad for him. So now I'm going to come up here. So like I've taken away like his major territory spots, and the only territory he has left is this. I'm going to fix this just because there might be some extension Aji here. I don't think I really need to do that. Yeah, I'm going to Hane this because it's just not. But this is actually becoming very strong, so it's becoming a little bit worrisome for me. It's definitely becoming a little bit worrisome for me. So I am actually just going to connect this and then worry about this group because it is becoming a little bit worrisome. I just wanted the territory down here actually. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this. That's not a good move, but I'm just going to go ahead and... Should I Atari first? No, screw it, I'll just connect. I probably should have Atari first. But there's a lot of cutting places here now. That's bad for him. I'll let him do that, and then I'll just jump out here. I really just needed the Sente for this. That's all I really needed. I mean, like, this is actually really, really thick, so he could possibly threaten this group now, but it's not that big of a threat. It's really not that big of a I don't know why you connected that. So it actually becomes a lot harder for him to attack. I'm just going to start breaking some of this territory and making some eye shapes for this group. This makes it like this actually makes it like way too easy. No, I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. Yeah, I mean, I understand this, but realistically, like, my goal was actually achieved because this group is now safe, and there's really not that many other places where he can actually gain points. Like, this move actually becomes fairly large at this point. It is a Sente move. That's part of the reason why it's really large. And I think the biggest leftover move is possibly this. This connection on the corner is a little bigger, because then this move becomes possible. That's also not a good move because I can just go here and all these points are just mine now. Yes, he does get these points up. He doesn't need to fix anything there. There's no problem with that. I think the only thing I have to do is do this. It's also not a big deal. I mean, this game was more or less decided when he actually played a bunch of moves in the opening game that I didn't really need to respond to. That's useless now. See, also, I don't need to respond to that. That's another, yes, it's a couple of points in the corner, but I don't need to respond to that. And this is kind of where games are actually won and lost. This is definitely where more or less games are kind of won and lost. Recognizing where the points are. There's a couple of points here too. I probably should have jumped first. Definitely should have jumped first. Because, like, that's fine. We got the couple of points in the corner. He did get a few points in the corner, but, you know, like, I'm going to get, like, pretty much all the points over here. Yeah. So I'm pretty much going to get, like, you know, this a slab of points over here, deny him any kind of points that he could have made. And realistically, it's just, that move is too slow. It actually allows me to jump on this allows me to two-space jump. And that kind of like eliminates a lot of his points eliminates some of his points in there. Do I need to answer that? I don't think so. There's not much in here, I don't think. I'm just going to do this. Oh, wait, that's a bad move. Never mind. I should have just extended or something. That's a bad move. It's fine. It's fine as well. It's perfectly fine. I'm just going to... I guess that's fine. I mean, I have everything over here. So I do have to connect. There is like there is a double in over here that I would not be able to deal with had I not done that. But see, the thing is, like, yes, he does connect these two groups, but the problem is, like, connecting these two groups doesn't do anything for him because those two groups were alive anyways. And since those two groups are essentially alive anyways, it doesn't really matter. He doesn't get any points for connecting those two groups. So, like, if your moves aren't generating points, you're probably not winning the game too much. Like, my moves actually generate a lot of points for me. His moves don't really generate any points for him. And that's why... that's why he's not like... That's why he's not doing so well against me, because my moves generate points, his moves do not generate points. That's 1 point. Like, this is going to be bigger because it's 2 points. Oh, that's a bad move. Yeah, this is actually a pretty big move here. So now he's letting me generate points here as well. And he basically, like, out of all these moves, he's only scrunched up maybe like 12 points. And that's just, you know, like, my stones are just a lot more efficient than his. So like this game weren't too many fights, but he essentially lost by 40, 50 points probably, just by playing less efficient moves than me, which is generally how you lose to a better player. Like when I play my dad, I will lose by like, if I don't fight with him, I lose by like 20, 25 points, because he plays better moves than me.
秒読み
Because like the difference in strength between my dad and myself is less than the difference in strength between him and me right now. But like to improve from the improvement from the improvement from 1 dan to like the improvement from like maybe 2-3 dan to 6 dan is actually much harder to improve. I basically did this so he couldn't cut. This is a sequencing play to destroy. This is actually a sequencing play to destroy his points because like because this move is here, he can't actually cut. Just gonna do this. And just gonna do this. There's a point right there. I am going to review this game, but I actually might have time to play like a fast game, or a little. I might have time to play another one. I'm going to connect because otherwise you can go here and take those stones, which I'm not going to allow. The Hane is definitely the better move, but it's about the same right now. Actually, it's not that big of a deal. Can't let him do this, so I'm going to curl here. This is actually 2 points here because it makes me a point here, and if I make this point here, I don't have to connect here. So that's how you actually count those points. So I'm going to make the 2-point move. So at this point, he's going to have to connect. Otherwise, that's going to be kind of damaging to him. He's going to have to connect this. Okay, yeah, he does that first. That's fine. But he will actually have to connect this sooner or later. Or we can do that first. But I'm definitely going to take the definite sentes here first. Because there's no doubt he has to connect that. He absolutely has to connect that. So like that's just one extra point for me. So at this point, any sentes that you see, you should take. Any sentes that you see, you should actually take. No. Did he not see that Atari? Like, this is literally like 1 point. I don't know why he did that. That wasn't actually threatening. So I'm going to take this. So that's going to be... Ah, I see. So yeah, that was just a mistake by him. So now that I've taken that, that's like half a point. I'm going to go down here first. Sequencing is pretty much everything, so... He should have taken this first. This is actually a point. That's not a point. There's no points there. There's no more points on this board, I don't think. So we can basically pass. I don't think there's any more points on this board.
Ten, nine, pass. Remove the dead stones.
So yeah, win by about 75 points or so. And a lot of that did actually come in the end game. Even without this was probably, I would say, 15 points. So even without that, I win by about 60, which is kind of what I expected. I need him to accept it. I think I need him to accept
You have
this.
won.
Okay, there we go. So let's actually review this game. Yeah, my dad was one of the strongest amateurs in the United States when he was playing. He basically won a bunch of like tournaments in Texas and Oklahoma. And like we went to the Go Congress. He actually, I think like 12 years ago or so, after I had already left home, he actually got like third place at the US Go Congress, but he was just playing for fun at that point. He was 9 Dan on Fox. I'm about 5 or 6 Dan on Fox. He was actually 9 Dan on Fox, but the difference between me and him is more than 3 stones. This is fine. This is essentially, so like you should go out here because the trade-off here is I get this corner, you get some influence on the outside. This is basically the trade-off. Doing this is bad because, like I said in the game, this doesn't really get you much because I'm really not about to, like, if you do this, I can't do this anyways. I'm not about to do that because, like, I mean, that just captures, right? So doing this doesn't really get you anything, and doing this actually gets me this territory in here. You should still pincer here because my stones are kind of weak. Like, leaving this alone is not a good idea. Like, after you solidify this, you should actually pincer here. And of course, the sequence is then something like this. You do this. I don't know if I would do 8, 9, 10. I don't think I would play like that. I mean, you would get this side. There would be a battle here, but you're not really truly in danger here. So that's how that would actually play out. But like this exchange, you should not do. You don't get, like, there's not really a cut for you to fix here. And giving me like an extra 5, 6 points for that move is no good. So doing this is fine. This is all fine. That, yeah, you know, I was actually debating between the double Hane and the extension. I guess the extension in this scenario is better because the double Hane basically, the double Hane essentially gives him this side, and he should definitely pincer here. Like, this is the pincer move is the one move that he's always missing. And especially once you take this stone, you definitely want to pincer here. Because not only does it threaten my stone here, it also like settles your group here. So this move is very, very, very important. You can also just play up here as well, which I think he did. But even after he plays up here, you should definitely do this. But the thing is, like, after he played up here, I ended up doing this because I know, like, since I've played this variation before, I know for a fact that that is a critical move. I know for a fact that that is a critical move. Here, yeah, you should definitely just go either over top or extend this or something. This is going to be a very damaging move because, yes, it settles you and you are alive, but it really doesn't get you anything. And I basically can ignore you. Now, I should have played here because this would actually threaten this group now. See, like doing this doesn't get you any eye space. So if I play here, it actually threatens your group now. Now you are the weak group. But I took another big move here because I wanted to separate these two groups. This move is still more important because it's better for shape building. So he does that, which is a good move. I do this, which is fine. Then he does that. I should have just done this because that's definitely Sente. This is not really Sente. And he did actually. There is this invasion down here. In case you guys are wondering, I can't do anything about this because if I do this, you can just connect back, and if I do this, you can just jump up. So that invasion down there is always going to be successful on the three space on the three space Joseki. This invasion down here always exists. So he does this pincer. That's good. I'm obviously going to do that. And he does that, which is actually a good move. But as I've said, like this side isn't worth all that much because I can still Hane up here. This is still the biggest move. This is basically just a shape reducing move. You can actually build your Moyo up here and build points up here because you do always have this move here to build this Moyo up. So to like, I suppose like since you always do have that Moyo to build that up, since you do have that Moyo to build this up, this is actually more important for white than all those other moves because you don't want black building the Moyo. So that's my mistake. I did this, which is almost as big. You can see like it's worth 1.1 point less. So that's almost as big. And this is the right move. What you're actually wanting to do here is forcing me to actually answer and kind of sacrifice this. If you force me to answer, it's hard for me to actually live down here. Whether if you directly answer this, I get an advantage already because I can just tuck down like I did, and the actual move, the actual correct move is to do this, and that's over. You still get most of the corner. That's actually the correct move for this invasion. Doing this is the incorrect move because it gets me that, and the best move here is actually to connect and then let white have the Hane and then just like ignore white and go somewhere else. Since you've played that variation already, that's actually the move you should do. Doing this, basically I get the Sente. You can't take my 2 stones because I can just take this stone. So I'm going to Hane up here. That's not as good as this move. I think this move is a little faster and it's more direct. You know why I didn't do this? I don't actually like this shape. I really hate this shape. And this variation is not one that I would actually play. Technically, like the ideal AI variation would actually be this, but I don't actually like this variation because it leaves too many gaps for white. Because like now this is like essentially like you have like moves like this, you have other threatening moves that I don't really like, and this is very complicated. This is a very complicated like kind of fight sequence that I don't really want to generate, and it's not one I play that often. So I don't actually like this shape, which is why I didn't play up here. I would be more likely to play something like this to solidify this shape, or just like straight up jump out essentially to kind of destroy this Moyo a little bit more. But I decided to play this because this is the easy play. This is definitely the easy play right here. He Hanes, and I should have done this, but I'm just going to extend over. And if you want to play over here, that's the correct move. Because if I can disconnect here, you can always just do this. And that doesn't really benefit me all that much. So you have to cover and go over. This is going to hurt you a lot because it gives me this move. And now, like you were trying to seal the outside. Now you can't seal the outside. Hane, I'm gonna go over here. I should have just Hane'd. I don't think this connects a very good move. I don't think that disconnects a very good move. I should have just double Hane'd, honestly. But I was like, well, if I do this, I can protect myself. So I do this. He does this. I'm gonna do this. So like that protects it with the tiger's mouth. But it's generally not a good move because it kills some of the Aji down here. So he extends out. I'm going to do this first. And the correct move was actually to double Hane. I know people are thinking about this, but this honestly isn't all that bad. This honestly isn't all that bad for black. And you get the Sente as well. And you can kind of like solidify the outside like that. So I probably would have played this move as well, actually. I probably would have played this move as well myself, because I don't like giving up this stone down here because it is bigger. But you do get this Hane up. You do actually get the Sente up here. So, and then you can actually threaten, you can kind of like threaten these two stones. So that's why the AI says this is actually a pretty decent variation for black. So he does this, which is not too bad. I basically am going to solidify this move because I want this territory down here. Once again, this is still the key move for me because it kind of like breaks his territory over here. But once again, I'm not very familiar with these variations. I should get more familiar with them, but like generally if I do this, the correct move for black is like fighting variations. And it's not bad for white because as you can see, like with all the white stones over here, yes, black does get a couple points down here, but this Moyo is more than worth it. So yeah, that move is a key move, but it is a fighting sequence. So you will, like if you play this move, you will actually have to study the fighting sequences in here. So I'm just going to solidify my territory, which is pretty big as well. And since my head is already out here, it's not that big of a deal. Like the group isn't going to be threatened. So he does that, which realistically, yeah, this is better. But like the thing is, like I don't really like this move because like not only does it kill those two, it also threatens this later, which is pretty big. I know at this point those two aren't the biggest. I know that at this point those two definitely isn't the biggest play. So I should have definitely went elsewhere. Even if it had been like here, I think it would be better than playing here. So I should have known that, but I guess like I just wanted the two stones, which I think if I was playing an even game, I probably would not have connected. This is actually an okay move. This is actually an okay move sequence because it does make him stronger over here. And of course, like since you actually played that move, so the sole reason that black would play that move is to actually make this stronger, so he can play this move to actually attack white. Now, white's not really under any threat of dying, honestly, but this would actually threaten white substantially. But he does this, and I jump out. So the thing is, like, you played these moves to give me this territory in order to threaten this group, but then like that's just a play I don't have to answer. And since I don't have to answer, you give up, like he gives up the critical play that he needs to actually play. So that's whatever. That's okay as well. That's a repeat move. That's not a big deal. And then he does that. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to answer this. He does this. Actually, no, that's actually the wrong move. You definitely need to do this. I would connect. And then this is... this is actually how that would actually turn. This is how that would actually turn out. This is the sequence how that turned out. You would actually get these two stones because I'm not going to like try to save these two stones, obviously. So you would actually get these two stones. That's how that would actually turn out. I'm actually extended over here. White's still fairly far ahead, but white doesn't really have that much eye space anymore. You wouldn't be able to kill white because your group here isn't that strong, but your group isn't really in any danger of dying either. So that's how that would turn out, and you would have a chance to actually kill white stones down here. So that's actually not a very good result for white, but that's generally how that would turn out. So this is a massive, massive mistake. First of all, there's not that many points in here. There's maybe 10 points in here, and just you killing these two white stones is worth more than 10 points. So this says negative 2.9. This actually says negative 2.9, but I think it's a lot more than negative 2.9. Letting me get the tiger's mouth is very, very bad for black. That loses you quite a lot of points. He does this, which is like really, really slow. The thing is, like, the thing with like DDK players and like lower SDK players is they actually get way too obsessed. They get far too obsessed with like trying to get like a small patch of territory, and they don't realize how much they're actually giving up in order to get that territory. So here, I'm basically going to do this first. The invasion here is probably better because it lets you strengthen the outside as well. The invasion here is definitely better in this shape. But the thing is, he answers, and essentially, this is like, yes, it does make this group a little bit weaker. But since I have the Sente and I jump out, this group isn't really threatened anymore. So he does that, which is that's not really that great of a move because all it does is threaten this one stone. It has no other value, so it's fairly small. If you Atari here, I'm just going to Atari back. So I'm going to I'm essentially going to do these moves where I can get Sente. Like if he does this, I would actually do this, and I'm a little bit better off than where I was. And then I either do this and try to get the same Sente, or I would jump. So like like you're giving me kind of like freebies here. Doing that doesn't make any sense. I mean, like doing this, I actually thought. Hang on, let me get this out. Doing this, I actually thought after he did this, he would actually block here, but he actually didn't. I should have just like done. I guess I guess this Atari isn't worth nearly as much as I thought. Because if now that I look at it, yeah, it's really not worth all that much because there's not too much territory up here that he can get anyway. So this Atari wasn't worth that much. I should have just jumped in the corner or done this. Usually, in most circumstances, you do not want black to Atari this, but here it doesn't really matter, I guess. I extend up. He does that. Now, that's not a good move. Like I said, let's just say he blocks here, right? And I do this. What's the most that can happen? So he lost roughly like 2-3 points here. But because he actually did this exchange, let's see how many points he actually lost here. Like if he did this and I did the Hane, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is like at least 7 or 8 points, and it ended up being a lot more than that. If he had played this right, this would be he lost at least 7 or 8 points. So he traded 3 points for 8 or 9 points here, or possibly more, because I made a couple points here. He basically traded 3 points for 10 points. And because he traded 3 points for 10 points, now he's 7 points more behind. Yeah, he should have done this. I mean, he does need to fix this, but he should have done this first to try to like try to like solidify his influence and then attack this group. But he didn't do that, so he fixes here, which is fine actually. I still have this clamp though, unfortunately. So I'm gonna do this first, and you either have to invade here at this point or just block. The point value is very little here. Like this is the best move, but this is only this is like negative 0.6 essentially. This is essentially negative 0.6. So like these are almost the same value. But he does that. I always get tricked into thinking that this move is better, but realistically, the extension is almost always better than the jump for point and Sente purposes. So I actually jump in. He does that. I think he actually screwed up. I mean, yeah, that's fine, actually. He does that. I extend. He does that. I extend more. And at this point, there's basically no points in here, so you should actually just invade. So he drops that, and essentially I get Sente, so I curl up. So you see, like, I got both these corners and the Sente move here. So, and now like this invasion just isn't worth all that much because I can actually go over top and there's not much room you can actually destroy. So I got both these, I actually got both the sides and I got the bottom territory. And that's why I'm up 31 points now, where I was only up like 10 points before. So like letting me have this and this plus the extension lost him an additional 20 points. That's just, I don't understand this move. I guess I should have just flown up. I was afraid of the little Aji down here, but it doesn't really seem like there's any Aji down here. I shouldn't have done this. This isn't worth very much at all. I extended back, which is a bad move from me. He Hanes, which is fine. I Hane. I should have done this first. I'm just going to connect. And at this point, you definitely need to attack this group. At this point, you definitely need to attack my group. He does that. I do that. I should have just like Atari'd here first. But anyways, I do that. He does that. I definitely should have Atari'd this first. And then I should have done this because it leaves him more cutting points, and that's just my mistake. Like, this isn't like a crucial mistake because this isn't a crucial mistake. because essentially like there's no real points that I can attack him, but it does make him a little bit more scattered. So that's definitely my mistake. I just regularly connect, just like connecting normal. He does that. I'm going to come out. I should have Atari'd this first. It just makes him a lot weaker than what he was. So that's a mistake by me. I jump out. He connects this. So I'm going to do here and start building my eye shape. So he does that. I do that. And I'm not really sure why this is, because this I'm not going to try to disconnect. There's not a cutting point here anyway, so this move is kind of pointless. I don't understand that move. I'm just going to go ahead and charge back at this point because that connects it. It removes all threat. It actually moves all threat. Now, since I've actually connected backwards, he does actually kind of need to connect this, but not really. So he does that. He definitely should have he definitely should have played down here to destroy like some territory, but he plays that, which gives me that move. And this is Sente. Remember, this is actually Sente, because like if I do that, he's dead. So he has to respond. I should have done this first because that's awesome. Well, this isn't really Sente. No, yeah, it is Sente. Never mind. Because these two are already Atari. So this is actually Sente. I should have done that first. I should have made this forcing move first. So that's one of the big differences between me and the AI. The AI would have 100% done this move. So I take the next biggest move, though. I take the next biggest move, which is the clamp. He does this. I Atari. He connects. I Atari. He connects. And then I guess this is Sente, so it's always going to be the biggest move. So at this point in the game, it's basically closing. So any Sentes you can get is extra points in your pocket. Any Sentes you can get is extra points in your pocket. Remember that. I basically connect this because if you connect this, then this becomes possible. He takes this, which is fine. And then I do this. He should have actually done this. Doing this and allowing me to do this, think about how many points that costs you. If you do this, that's like 2 points right there. You're probably going to get both of these because those are Sentes for you and not Sentes for me. So, and then you might get this point. So it's a possibility of minus like 5 points for him when he lets me do this. I'm not really sure why you do this. There's absolutely no problem in here. This is just there's nothing I can do in here. I mean, if you really want to fix it, you would play this out here, and that would get you a couple more points. So this doesn't do anything. This is basically just losing several points. Now you see he's like, then I'm going to do this first, and he does that. I block. He does this. He connects. I do this. He does that. That's not a good extension. That's just kind of like feeding me more points. And then he does this. This isn't actually Sente. So he loses even more points. So I'm going to do this. I always forget how big this is. This is actually really big. I do this. He's going to do that. And I'm just going to take, I'm going to take these stones. Yes, he deletes a couple of points in the corner, but I get like this stuff up here. He does that. I'm going to do that. And just, this is probably like the best case scenario for me on here. You don't really need to fix that right away. You would definitely play this. You really don't need to fix that right away. You definitely play this. Because I'm still like 1 liberty short. If I do this, then you connect. And then I can probably do something like this. But I don't know if I would do that right away. So you actually connecting right now lets me Hane out and get all these points. It also fixes this cutting point, which is kind of like what I wanted. He does that. I'm going to connect. He does this. I don't know why I always forget that this is like a lot of points. I do that. You realize I'm ahead by almost 50 points now, and like before I played these areas, I was only ahead by around 30. So 31. So he roughly lost about 18 points in that closing sequence. Now think about that. If you just improve your closing sequence, you can actually gain 1 or 2 ranks, and that's even true at my level because Katago just destroys me in closing sequences. So like. Between me and a 9K player and just the closing sequence, there's about a 30-point difference. And between me and Katago, on the other way is another 30-point difference. So that's a 60-point difference right there in the closing game and a lot of closing games. That could improve if you actually get to Katago's level, which no one can ever get to. You can actually improve a whole 6 ranks. If you get the closing rank to my level, you could actually improve 3 ranks. So to like, if you just work on your if he just worked on his closing game, he could get to 6Q just by the closing rank. If he plays everything else 9Q, but he just plays the closing game the same about my level, he would actually get to about 6Q or maybe even 5Q. So that's a huge difference in like the closing game and determining what's Sente and what's not. So he does this. I don't really need to do this. I just need to connect. I don't really know why I keep forgetting that. Like, this is like a big problem of mine. This is actually a huge, huge problem of mine. I keep on forgetting this. So I'm going to do this, which doesn't really do anything because this still comes out. This isn't that big of a problem because I can just do this right now. But if I wanted to connect, I should just kind of like do this or something. Not some crappy move like this. That's just a bad move by me. That's a bad play. So he does that. I connect. He finally charges. He does this. And the thing is, I keep on forgetting how many points this is because if I connect, these are all points down here. And I don't have to fix anything. So if I connect, this is probably like a 3-4 point swap. I keep on forgetting how big this is. And I definitely need to remember. He does that. I shouldn't have connected because I'm still like 1 liberty ahead, so I don't really need to connect on this. I connect. He does that, which is pointless. See, like the thing is, the thing about this is like, yes, you connect these 2 groups, but there's no value in connecting these 2 groups because both these 2 groups are alive. They're not really under threat. So when you connect these 2 groups, you're just losing points. I do this because there might be some points in here. He does that. He does that, which is fine. I should have done this because that threatens invasion in here. And then doing that, I can do this. So, see, like, this is like my issue. Like, there's very little value in me connecting either. There's definitely very little value in me connecting either because, like, my groups aren't really under threat. So I connect. He does this. I should have pushed first, but anyways. I do this. He connects. And then I do this. Now, I think this is this is a slightly better move. But I'm just going to do this. He Hanes, I do this. He's going to connect. I'm going to Atari here. This is a mistake. This is a mistake. You should... actually, this is okay. It's not too bad. I take... But that's actually a wrong move. You need to do this move. This is actually several points here. So he connects. I'm going to get that. He doesn't need to connect there yet, so that's giving me another Sente. So like even the very last in-game Sentes are actually quite important because he loses another 10 points. Even if not counting this, he actually loses another 10 points on these in-game Sentes. So I do this, I get these points now. I block, he charges, I block, he does this, I'm gonna connect. And like this charge is actually worth about 2 or 3 points. I keep on forgetting how to count the points for this, and I really need to not do that. He does this, I do that. He does this, he does this. I'm going to come in here and deny him points here. He does that. I'm going to do this first. Remember, the sequencing is very, very important. Remember, like, yes, this connect, you can't capture him. He does capture the stone, but this is actually important because if this move didn't exist, let's just say he fixed this, right? And I do this. Now, like, if he fixed this, now if you do this, he can actually just he can just disconnect. He can just cut. But because this exists, he can't actually cut, because if he cuts, he just dies. So that's how you would actually use things like this. Like little intricacies like this will actually separate like high Qs from low Qs. Because a lot of low Q players won't be able to see that, but most high Q players will be able to see that. So I connect, he blocks, I do this. That's fine. I have to connect this because if I don't, for those of you that don't see it, he has this and I can't connect. So yeah, that's why I have to connect when he does that. He does this. I don't really know. I mean, I do want to do that because I don't want him to do this and then do this and get those 2 points. So he does that. That's not really all that useful. It's maybe like that's not even a point really. So that's not that useful of a play. Yeah, that's another wasted play. I do this because that's 2 points. Because if he destroys this point, then I have to connect this as well. He does that, which is fine. Does that, which is fine. This isn't worth all that much. There's very few points for him, and there's maybe like 1 or 2 for me at the most. So I'm going to do this. Now, remember, at this point, I'm already up 61.4 points. So from 49, I gained another 12 points before he actually made this mistake. He makes this mistake, obviously. I don't... Also, like, if you're going to do that, you just might as well do this. So this is going to be 1 point better than doing this because they're both gote. So he does this. I'm going to take this. Obviously, he didn't see it. He does that. I take... This is worth like 1 or 2 points. I do this. I block. He does this. I take his points. If this was a close game, when I do this, you should do this. Because think about it. This trade, when you connect and I do this, I get 1 point, you get 0 points. If you do this, I get 0 points, you get 0 points. So you lost another point. So you would actually lose another point there. And if this was like a 1 point game, that would actually determine the game. So sequencing in Endgame is very, very important. And that's why Kata Go consistently beats me by about 15, at least 15, 20 points in the endgame. So, and once again, like you lose a point by doing this because this is a point, this is not a point. So like the thing is, in games that are separated by less than 5 points, you can easily lose a game just by not paying attention here. And I would think like if you actually raised your awareness a little bit, you could actually just improve by at least 1 rank if you actually did that. Just paying attention to the very, very end game. And of course, that's the game. Essentially, and that's how I won by 76 points. Remember, like, you know, at the beginning of the final end game, I was only ahead by about 50. And even without this mistake, I basically gained another 12 points. At like the mid-game, end-game transition, I was only up by around 30. And so you can see like even without this foobar here, he lost 36 points just by the closing moves and by me playing more efficient moves. So this is kind of like this is basically kind of like a mid to end game tutorial. Yes, he was already losing by a lot at that point, but that's not the point of this game. You're generally going to take disadvantage when you play against a much stronger player, but if you just tighten up your end game a little bit, you can actually improve by several ranks just by doing that. And hopefully games like this can teach you how to play Sente moves and tell you like which moves are actually bigger, because the end game is actually very, very important. So that's actually today's live stream. I hope you enjoyed this stream. I don't really have time to play another game today, but maybe like next time when I have more time, I will try to play 2 games and review. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button, and I'll be back next time with another stream.